Alright, so it is the first Friday of December, and I'm going to do a weekend vlog. So let's get this started. I'm going to take you home and show you what books I plan to read this weekend. Alright, so this weekend I plan to read 4 different books. The first and number one being The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo, mainly because I got it from the library, really excited to read it. It's about the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo. You know, all good things, yeah. The second one I plan to read is Smashed by Junji Ito. It's his short story collection. One of 2 that I owned, and this is the second one that I need to read. It should be another quick read and something that I've been excited to read for quite a while. So again, quick one, want to get it out of the way, but really excited to finish it. The third one that is pretty prioritized this month, because I've been putting it off for a really long time, is Thinner by Richard Bachman or Stephen King. And it's about a guy who runs over a gypsy, I think, or a woman who curses him to basically consume himself until he dies. And so he gets thinner. That's my understanding of the story. It's my last Richard Bachman book that I need to finish. Really excited to finish it. And then my fourth and final book that's a priority this weekend is Leave the World Behind, and it's supposed to be a really short psychological thriller to really make me start thinking, I guess, and I'm excited to finally get to it. So let's see how this weekend goes. Happy Friday evening. So today I did actually finish Smashed. It's not that long, and it's just a couple. It's a collection of short stories, so it was really easy to get through, but I really did enjoy it. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and there were a couple of stories that I particularly enjoyed. Give me a second. I highlighted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I enjoyed 5 of them. And one of them in particular, in this book, it was a series of 3 that were kind of connected loosely, still definitely singletons. It was called The Mystery of the Haunted House. And what I really liked about it is, again, you have that perfect Junji Ito, like you turn the page and you have to force yourself to find the mystery and witness the horror. And he just executed it perfectly throughout the first story in particular, but also the 3 beautiful sequences of stories. But also in his other short story collection, Shiver, there was the model or something like that, which was a short story, and I said I didn't like it in that one, and that still holds up, but that the follow-up story or the bonus story in that one was like a follow-up to the model. And that character makes a resurgence in these 3 stories. And it's not anything where you have to be familiar with the character. Like if I hadn't read those stories before these haunted house stories, I would have been fine. But it's just a really nice resurgence of familiar characters that I particularly enjoyed. Plus the concept was utterly enthralling and particularly creepy. Plus another notable one, in my opinion, was Roar, where 2 men go and are camping, which I particularly enjoy, and they come across this mysterious flood, and they have to figure out what's happening. And I just really loved the ending to that. It's less horror for that story and more psychological. Not that any of Junji Ito's work isn't psychological. Gotta love that double negative. But really got to me. Beautiful. The last one, I'll just talk about one more, even though there's quite a few in here that would be wonderful to discuss. But the last one I want to talk about is Earthbound, which is just suddenly in Japan, these people start almost being tied to these spots without ropes or chains or anything. It's like the earth or like invisible binds are keeping them in a particular spot, and no one knows what to do with them because they won't move, they won't talk, and no one knows why they're in a certain place. And over the course of the story, you kind of find out what's happening. And again, the twist at the end was particularly amazing. I loved it. And if I had to compare Shiver to Smashed, even though you got more stories in Shiver, and I think there's a couple more in Shiver that are, I want to say, more famous or more well liked in Junji Ito's fans. I personally enjoyed Smashed more, just because of the stories that were in there got to me just an inch more. But I would hands down recommend both of them, and I would hands down hand either of those collections to a friend or family member that needs a good horror fix. I loved it. Yes. And now all I have to do is read No Longer Human. Very excited about that one. And hopefully I'll get to that this month at some point. Yes, I will. But in particular this weekend, my next book that I need to open and get started on is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I did actually start tonight, but I think I just read like 2 pages. I don't think I'll read any more tonight, and probably will read the majority of it tomorrow. So I'll get back to you and I'll check in the morning. Have a wonderful night, and I hope you had an amazing Friday. Same place, different time. It is Saturday morning, and this morning I decided, instead of reading Evelyn Hugo like I should be, I wanted to pick up Leave the World Behind and just finish it, because it is a pretty quick read. What is it? It's only like 10:30, because life, I wake up extremely early because I'm a teacher and I'm on a schedule, and I can't forget the schedule. Yeah, I'm doing fine. However, I did start and finish Leave the World Behind this morning, and it was interesting. I mean, it does deliver what it promised. You have a family, a white family, that goes on vacation to get away from New York City out in the countryside. You have Amanda and Clay as the parents, and then you have their 2 children, a 16-year-old boy and a younger girl. They portray her as a child, although she doesn't seem too much like a tiny child, more like a preteen, kind of middle school. She doesn't truly have her age pinpointed. And then near the beginning of the book, the owners of their Airbnb come and say that the city is now blackout, no electricity, no Wi-Fi. There's been this huge hurricane or something, and technology is basically down. And it just so happens that this couple is Black. And so you have these racial tensions, these two families that don't really know each other, and they're trying to figure out who's true, and the families aren't really trusting each other, and they're in this one place. And it's supposed to be this thriller, psychological thing. And it, like I said, it does deliver that. However, and this is what I was scared of because it is really short, it just doesn't, to me at least, I don't think it was truly flushed out. I think it could have been a lot better if there was just a couple more chapters. And I know it was supposed to be like this closed circle just with these characters, and it wasn't supposed to be about the world at large. But I thought it would have been more interesting if they had more interactions with everywhere else as well. So I did end up giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. And for me, that isn't necessarily a bad rating, but it's also not necessarily something that I would pick up later on. I thought the ending itself was really interesting and kind of out there. And it did not satisfy me personally. So I don't know. I didn't go in it with huge expectations, but I did want more from this book. That's all I'm going to say about it. And that's all I really can update you with. I focused mostly on Leave the World Behind this morning. I read nothing of Evelyn Hugo. Sorry. And then all I have left of my plan for this weekend is Thinner. And then obviously my weekend plans, which is mostly cooking and cleaning and sleeping. So we'll see. I hope you also had a wonderful, relaxing Saturday morning, and I will check in with you later. Ooh, gotta love that lighting. It's what you get. Sorry. I'm about halfway through Evelyn Hugo, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I have to say, it's a really interesting book. I didn't think I'd like it as much as I do. And so I'm pleasantly surprised about that. And I really, really like how Taylor Jenkins Reid is intertwining the stories of Evelyn and, of course, Maggie, the unknown journalist that she has kind of summoned to her apartment. One thing I find really fascinating that I didn't really make the connection to is that this is the author that also wrote Daisy Jones and the Six. So I have no idea why I haven't picked this book up before. Blowing my mind. I loved that book. And now I'm really entrenched in this book. The way that she goes through each husband, I'm only on number 3 currently, but the way that she goes through each love story is very seamless and very, like, you can understand her reasoning through each one. And she's a very strong woman trying to make it in the world and just trying to live her life to the fullest and try to find love at the same point. And I'm just really, really loving her character right now. And this is Evelyn, by the way. And even though Evelyn's kind of this main character, you're also finding out a lot about Monique and this mystery surrounding why Monique is the chosen journalist. And I have some theories, although as we're slowly going through the story, they each are getting less plausible, so I'm not sure I want to share them, because I genuinely don't know at this point, and I'm loving that aspect of this story as well. Because you have this one story on this side of the book about Evelyn and her life, basically going through this beautiful biography, and then you have this other story about Monique and basically her breakup, her impending divorce, and her trying to really grow as a person, while also this mysterious connection these two women have together. Great storytelling, and I'm basically cutting this short because I want to get back to reading and see if I can finish this book today. We'll see. Bye. Alright, so I did finish The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo tonight, and I'm really, really glad I did. It was such an amazing story, and I think it's going on my favorite reads of 2020. I should have expected it after realizing that Taylor Jenkins Reid is the author of this book along with Daisy Jones. And I will not lie, I have washed my face, but I was in tears for the last quarter of the book for various reasons. I don't want to ruin it for anyone who still hasn't read it because I'm glad I hadn't been spoiled and just going through this beautiful ending that I had no idea what was going to happen. Honestly, I can't say enough about it. It was a great story. You had beautiful, beautiful endings for both Evelyn Hugo as a star, going from where she started to where she ended in this story, and then Monique from where she was called up to write Evelyn Hugo's biography to where she ended to basically the end of the story. And it was great. It was a great story. Throughout the story, you just had very strong female characters, female empowerment, LGBTQ empowerment, and there were some incredibly powerful lines throughout the book that I continually highlighted. I'll have to do some more thinking on it, but it might end up being one of my top 10 books, or maybe just Taylor Jenkins Reid being one of my top authors. I don't know. I'll have to read more of her work. I definitely just requested more of her books on my library. We'll see. But if you have not picked up this book, I strongly request that you do. Point blank. Just pick up this book. It is fantastic. And then changing gears a little bit, I did at least pick up, I only have the sleeve cover right here, but thinner. And when I picked it up, I actually found a bookmark in it, and it's a bookmark from when I think it's 3rd grade. Can it zoom in? That's a picture of me. I personally think I'm adorable, but you might beg to differ. Oh, I wish it would zoom in. There we go. Finding this bookmark in the page, or in this book, shows that I did try to pick this book up before. For some reason, I don't remember it. It must have been when I tried to read Firestarter, or did read Firestarter, which I honestly should reread. But I obviously didn't continue reading Thinner for some reason. And clearly it was years and years ago when I was in middle school, because I don't remember much of Thinner, and consequently Firestarter. So that's why I'm rereading Thinner. And again, I should reread Firestarter, even though I know I did finish that book. But I thought I'd share that with you because these bookmarks, I used to have a lot of them, and I can't find too many of them left. So it's weird to have bookmarks with pictures of yourself on them, but they're also really fun to find. I don't know. I'm gonna keep it because I look adorable. Just saying. But I'm going to leave you for tonight. And I hope you have a wonderful Saturday night. And I will update you tomorrow with Thinner updates, conclusions. Who knows at this rate? I'm going through these books really fast. And I hope Thinner is a wonderful book as well. Bye. Alright, so this morning I have been reading Thinner by Richard Bachman, and I'm about halfway through right now. A little over halfway through. Not sure. One of those two. But it's an interesting book. I thought the whole book would be taking place of our main character, Bill, slowly getting thinner until he disappears. Not the case. So I was completely wrong on that part. At this point in the book, we have a major change where he has gotten incredibly thin. He's about 100 pounds, or he's lost 100 pounds, and he's now trying to fight back on this curse. Not a spoiler, actually. But he's trying to seek the gypsy that cursed him, basically. It's a really interesting book because you have these intense descriptions of a curse, and you have these intense descriptions of all these interesting phenomenons around this curse, because it ends up this accident that killed the other gypsy that consequently got this man cursed was really a truly horrific accident. It was what happened after that was bad and got this man and a couple of his colleagues cursed. And in my opinion, rightfully so. But it's like karma, right? Like, what is going to happen to you is who you are as a person. And it's a very interesting concept. And it does get me hooked to this book. One thing I really did note is this is a Richard Bachman book. It was supposed to be a pseudonym, and no one was supposed to know this was written by Stephen King. And at this point in time, this author, Richard Bachman, had released a couple of books previously, and this book was supposed to be released as Richard Bachman. However, by the time this book was released, people did know it was Stephen King writing it. He was outed, I guess. But there was a reference in here where two characters were talking. It was Bill, our main character, and his doctor trying to figure out what's happening to him. And the doctor points out, the way you're describing these curses as if it's a Stephen King novel. And I found that hilarious because part of the reason Stephen King wanted to be Richard Bachman was to get away from this horror title that is associated to his name. And the idea that Stephen King is using his name to associate a horror phenomenon is utterly hilarious to me, actually. Especially knowing kind of this backstory of the name of Richard Bachman. But again, that is a side note. I'm really interested to see where this story is going to take place now that it's taken such a drastic turn. And it's weird because this is definitely an anti-hero, so I'm not sure if I'm rooting for him or not. I guess ultimately I'm rooting for him not to die, but at the same time, I'm not rooting for him to have a happy ever after. So we'll just see. I will update you hopefully when this book is finished. But have a wonderful afternoon. I did finish Thinner this evening. I thought it was decent. I loved the first half of it. I thought it really got into your head. And truly the first half of it is what I thought the whole book was going to be like, which it was not. And that's okay. The second half was interesting. I thought the pacing was a lot slower and I was just a little bit less into it. I think it could have gone a different direction or just had done something a little bit differently. But then I thought the ending was just beautiful and perfect and rounded out the whole story, and it was, yes, that's how an ending should be in a book like this. I just wish that the part that I didn't like was just completely gone or rewritten or something. Again, that's not to say I hated it. I think I'm gonna give this probably a 3 or 2.5 because again, I liked it. Yeah, probably a 3 because it was a decent book. It wasn't bad by any means. For me, the second half, the pacing was off. And that's just what it was. I thought it would be a lot more psychological. And don't get me wrong, there was psychological horror, but it was a lot more on the side of mystery than I was expecting. So it's just interesting. I've heard that the movie is supposed to be really good, so I might check that out. I actually watched Misery by Stephen King today for the first time, and I really liked the movie a lot better than I liked the book, which doesn't happen for me that often. What can I say? I'm weird. But yeah, that wraps up my reading vlog. I have Thinner, I had Smashed, I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and wow, this is bad. I just read this book. Oh, the one I didn't like. Leave the World Behind. That's why I didn't remember it. It was forgettable, clearly. So 4 books for the weekend is not bad at all. I hope you enjoyed this and maybe found something entertaining or a book that you potentially want to read in the future. And have a wonderful, wonderful week.